The first time he brushed against me, I told myself it was an accident. By the third time, I knew it wasn't. My boss, Daniel, the man who preached about professionalism in every meeting, stood too close, whispered too low, and let his hand linger where it didn't belong. One night, he cornered me in the break room, voice slick as oil. "You're ambitious, aren't you?" he murmured. "Show me loyalty, and I'll show you opportunity." That was when the fear left me. I didn't flinch, didn't shrink back. Instead, I smiled. Because while he thought he was breaking me down, I had already started a different project, one that would end with his name in ashes. From that night on, I played the part he wanted. Quiet, obedient, grateful. I let him think his comments unsettled me, let him believe I'd keep my head down to survive. But every message he sent after hours, every late-night check-in, every inappropriate remark went straight into a hidden folder, my personal archive, screenshots, recordings, dates, times. I made sure the timestamps matched payroll, company events, client meetings. A neat trail of evidence he thought would never exist. And I didn't stop there. I started listening. To whispers in finance about misplaced budgets, to operations complaining about favoritism. Daniel wasn't just a predator, he was sloppy. The kind of man who thought his power made him untouchable. But men like him always make the same mistake. They underestimate the one woman who refuses to stay silent. Daniel's arrogance grew bolder. In meetings, his hand would land on my chair, his laugh too loud, his gaze lingering when he thought no one noticed. But people did notice. They just chose silence. That silence became my weapon. I learned who shifted uncomfortably, who rolled their eyes, who avoided his gaze. They didn't defend me, but they gave me names, future allies who would nod when the truth came out. At home, I layered my files. Every email backed up twice. Every recording stored on cloud accounts he didn't know existed. By day, I endured his smirk. By night, I sharpened my knife of evidence. Then came the night he crossed the line further. At an after-hours client dinner, his hand gripped my wrist under the table as he leaned in with that false grin. "You should be grateful, you know. Plenty of women would kill for my attention." I didn't pull away. I let him think he had won. What he didn't see was the small device in my bag, a recorder catching every poisoned word. That night, I didn't cry. I uploaded the file, labeled it, and smiled at the glowing screen. He thought he owned me. He didn't realize he had just signed his confession. The cracks in his empire began when I whispered to HR, not an accusation, not yet, just a question. Do we have protocols for inappropriate conduct? I watched the panic flash in the officer's eyes, the way her hand tightened on the pen. She knew. Everyone did. They just prayed no one would be the one to say it. I left her office with a polite smile and no complaint filed. That uncertainty, that was enough to rattle him. HR pulled his old files, quietly, cautiously, and Daniel suddenly looked over his shoulder more often. He sensed a shadow, but couldn't trace its source. He tried to tighten control, more urgent late-night meetings, more veiled threats wrapped as compliments. I could make you, or I could bury you. He didn't realize I had already turned colleagues into silent witnesses. I spoke little, but I let my tired eyes and forced smiles tell a story. People filled in the blanks themselves. Soon, whispers about Daniel weren't just mine. They spread like smoke through the office. I hadn't accused him directly, but the suspicion grew legs of its own. He became defensive, short-tempered, snapping at his team. Every outburst was fuel, and I was the one holding the match. His mistake came when he left me a voicemail. Drunk, late, slurred words dripping with entitlement. "Don't act like you don't want this. You'll thank me one day." I played it once, twice, 10 times, each time smiling sharper. That voicemail was a dagger. I copied it, encrypted it, and sent it to a private email labeled simply, "Release on Demand." Insurance. Now I could sit back, let him spiral, knowing one push would send the blade straight through his career. He was unraveling, and he didn't even know who was pulling the thread. The board meeting was my theater. He stood at the front, chest puffed, presenting numbers that didn't quite add up. I sat quietly in the back, eyes lowered, hands steady. Then, casually, I asked a question, soft, innocent, pointed. "Daniel, didn't you authorize expense reports that don't align with client accounts?" Silence dropped like a hammer. The CFO looked up sharply. Pens stopped moving. Daniel stammered. His face flushed. That one question was all it took for the room to taste blood. I leaned back, serene, while he fumbled through excuses. The trap had sprung. From that moment, his paranoia was visible. He started sending late-night mass emails, copying executives as if transparency could erase suspicion. He hovered around finance, demanded files, barked at interns. I didn't need to sabotage him. He was doing it himself. All I had to do was keep watching, keep collecting. His own fear was painting the target on his back, and the men who once admired him now whispered in corners, weighing whether to protect him or let him drown. The final push came when I released the voicemail, not to HR, not to the board, but to one journalist I knew never missed a story about corporate abuse. The headline hit like thunder: "Rising executive under fire for misconduct allegations." The article was cautious, filled with words like alleged and sources suggest, but the damage was irreversible. Overnight, clients began asking questions. Staff refused late-night calls. The board convened an emergency session. And Daniel? He stormed into the office red-faced, screaming about betrayal. He still didn't know it was me. They put him on leave within a week. Officially, pending review. Unofficially, everyone knew he was finished. The office changed overnight, the air lighter, conversations freer, people no longer flinching when footsteps approached. I walked the halls with calm precision, no longer the shadow at the edge of the room. Daniel tried calling me, leaving voicemails laced with rage and desperation. I never answered. His power had evaporated, his voice nothing more than static on my phone. He tried to fight back, threatened lawsuits, tried to discredit me, called me unstable. But every claim he made fell apart under the weight of what I had collected: emails, recordings, witnesses. His allies vanished one by one, unwilling to tie themselves to his sinking ship. By the time his lawyer called for a settlement conversation, I knew the game was already won. He wasn't negotiating strength, he was begging for mercy. The board asked me quietly if I wanted to press charges. I thought about it long and hard. I pictured every late-night text, every cornered moment, every smile I had to fake to survive. My answer was simple: yes. When the lawsuit became public, it was no longer my voice against his. It was a floodgate opening. Other women came forward. Stories spilled out, some older than me, some darker than mine. He wasn't just careless, he was a pattern, a predator. And now, finally, his mask was gone. The company severed him completely, scrubbing his name from every file, every presentation, every wall. Investors demanded reform. HR leadership was replaced, and compliance officers flooded the building. They asked me to stay, to help rebuild. For the first time in years, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. The shadow was gone. Daniel had thought he owned me, but all he did was hand me the torch that burned his empire down. Months later, I walked into the same boardroom where he once hovered over me, smug and untouchable. This time, it was my voice leading the discussion, my name on the slides. His downfall wasn't just personal. It became the foundation of my rise. And as for Daniel, last I heard, he was unemployed, Reputation in tatters, his name whispered only as a cautionary tale. He thought he could reduce me to silence. Instead, I reduced him to a ghost.